Next up, we have a session with Ashdin Doctor, health coach and founder of Awesome 180. Ashdin hosts the Habit podcast, which has over 1,500 episodes and is one of India's most listened to health and wellness podcasts. In the past, he has authored 3 books on habits, and his 4th book, Small Actions, Big Results, is also out now. The title of his 4th book is also the title of his talk today. Ashdin is the habit coach, and he firmly believes that awesome lives start with awesome habits. He is on a mission to create a society filled with people living healthy, wealthy, and socially fulfilled lives, one habit at a time. Welcome, Ashdin. Joining him on stage after his address will be Vinifer, Gandhi, India and Communications and CSR lead for Sanofi, India.
Thank you. Amazing. How many of y'all have ever heard of habit coach? A habit coach? None, right? I love it. Normally when people ask me, ye habit coach kya hota hai? You know, I've heard of life coach, I've heard fitness coach. Habit coach kya hota hai? And I tell them that as a habit coach, I have only one mission: to help you get rid of your frustrations and to make your life easy. Do you want to make your life easy? Put your hands up. How many of you want to make your life easy? Ah, lovely. All the hands went up. You know, when I work with people, I often have this thing about people are frustrated. They can't figure out how to make these changes in their life. You know, somebody wants to lose weight, somebody wants to get fitter, somebody wants to improve their sleep, all these changes. And it all boils down to this one word that people start using with me. Are Ashdin, I don't have the motivation to do this. Are Ashdin, I don't have the self-discipline to do this. Have you all heard this? Have you said this before to yourself? Right? How many of us have tried starting a diet at some point of time? Huh? Same number of times. How long did that diet last? 2 days, 3 days, right? What happens is that we get inspired. You know, we see somebody on Instagram, social media, and say, you know, I also want that 6-pack. I also want to be like this. And then what happens? We start. We download the most popular diet program, exercise program that is there, the hardest thing, and we try doing that. And how long does that last? 1 day, 2 days. That's about what we can manage. And then it goes fuss. So my entire goal was to get people away from this whole thought of motivation and self-discipline, to identify something else that exists. And the exact reason why I started this book, which is called Small Actions, because most of us try to big actions into our life and fail after that. Let me tell you a little bit about me and my story. Maybe it might align with some of you, so it might feel, you know, like, okay, I understand where this is coming from. So I come from a family business of market research, and I did that for 15 years. And in a family business, whenever you start, you're always compared with your parents, right? So you're always like, and you don't want to be that Amir Baap ka Bigda Beta in that organization, right? So you always end up doing more than what is asked for you, more than everybody else. And I became this type A person. Do you know what a type A person is? A type A person is somebody who, like, if I'm not winning, what is the point in doing this? You know, like, go hard or go home. You've heard all these phrases, right? Sometimes I want to go home. Home is much more chill there. So I was that kind of person. You know, I will sleep when I am dead. You know, that kind of thing. And at that same time, I was in an abusive relationship. So there was a relationship thing happening at home. At work, I just started my new division. So there was this new baby that I had to put in. So I was working insane hours. I was sleeping maybe 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day. And in my mind at that point of time, it was that, you know, paisa is coming in. You know, I can eat whatever I want. I'm being successful. I had put on that much weight. I was nice and tubby, to the point where I was so unfit that I couldn't climb up a flight of stairs. I climb up to my house, I couldn't climb up that flight of stairs. Back then, I'm talking about what, 15 years ago, the thought of a gym didn't exist. If I went to a gym, people would say, kya, you want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger? You know, that was the way people spoke. Bodybuilding karna hai kya? So that was the way that the idea behind health existed. One fine day, I'm getting ready for a presentation. And how do we normally work on presentations? You've heard of this thing called last minute panic? Huh? We don't do anything, we procrastinate, last minute panic, try and push everything out as fast as possible. That's what I did. And finally, I don't think I slept for probably 2 nights. I must have had slept for 4 hours for these 2 days. And I'm getting ready for this presentation. I come out, I put on my shirt, had a bath, and I just start sweating profusely. My entire shirt is drenched. I can feel my heart going tuck, 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 and I collapse on the floor. Now, I was 30, 31 at that age. Okay. And I'm sitting there, and there are these 2 voices in my head. One voice is saying, oh my God, Ashdin, you're going to die. And there's another voice in my head saying, wow, Ashdin, congratulations, you worked so hard that you're going to die. And what's strange is that we both have these 2 voices in our head, constantly in this battle. And at that point of time, I made a decision saying that there's no way that I'm going to continue my life like this. I don't want anybody else to experience what I'm going through. I want to change this. So I went on what normally we would do if we want to change our life. What would we do? I joined Insanity Workout, P90X3, which are all 1.5 hour workouts, okay? Now, I couldn't climb up a flight of stairs. So 2 minutes into the workout, I was like on a puddle on the floor going, right? And I said that this is not going to work. Also, being a typical type A person, I gave myself the hardest goal possible. So when you're nice and tubby, what is the hardest goal possible? 6-pack. Correct, whoever said that. So 6-pack abs was my goal. I was like, chalo, I'll do that. I started working, tried everything, and nothing worked out. Finally, I discovered this chota sa exercise program called a Tabata workout. Have you all ever heard of Tabata? Tabata workouts are 4-minute workouts. All right, 4 minutes I can do. All right, 20 seconds of this, 20 seconds of this, 20 seconds, chalo. This much I can do. So I started doing 4-minute workout. Survived. Slowly after a couple of weeks, I got stronger. So I did 2 Tabata workouts. And that's the way that the exercise progressed. At the same time, I realized that no matter if I did 4,000 crunches on the floor, 6-pack was not going to come. I had to focus on my food, I had to focus on all the other aspects of it. So I said, chalo, I will do not gluten-free, fat-free, low carb, this, that, tried everything under the planet, GM diet. And finally realized that intermittent fasting was what worked for me. Why? You don't have to eat. Like, ye kar sakte. You know, all right. So started with 14 hours of intermittent fasting, went to 16 hours, and realized after a while, all of this is happening, but there's so much stress. And then I read somewhere, stress and sleep are the next aspects of losing fat. Chalo. Figure out stress, meditation, etc., etc., etc. Within a year, 6-pack had happened. Now, people would meet me at parties, meet me at weddings, they hadn't met me. Suddenly they see this changed avatar. They come up, you know how we go to people and say in wedding, Arey, what did you do? Give me also a few tips. I also want to lose 5 kilos. And everyone has 5 kilos only to lose, right? So I also want to lose 5 kilos. So I would patiently tell them, I did this first, then I did this, then I did that. And they would, after 20 seconds, stop me and say, Baba, I don't have your self-discipline. I don't have your motivation, so I can't do it. And that's when I realized that if people think that they can't do it because they don't have the motivation or self-discipline, they're not going to start. Now, if you don't start, how are you going to get anything? So I said that let me start helping people on this. And that's when the whole idea of habit coaching came around. So as a habit coach, for me, the biggest gali, the biggest bad word is motivation. So every time somebody says motivation, it's like, shh, can't say that. We need to censor it. Because you realize that motivation is fleeting. It's like a matchstick. You light it, and for how many seconds does the matchstick last? 3 seconds? Can you cook Maggi noodles on a matchstick? No? Maggi noodles take 2 minutes, at least you can't do that. So you have to use that matchstick to light something else that you can continue using. And that stove are your habits. That stove are what I call a step before that, which are called your intentions. With motivation, we get inspired, and then we get motivated, and then we go fuss. Instead, we need to learn how to have a strong intention. Why do you want to make this change in your life? What is the reason for this? Because once you have a strong intention, that is when you're going to stick to it. You know, throughout our lives, we have highs and lows and highs and lows. Sometimes we feel like doing something, but then some other days we're like, nahi, aaj kuch nahi karte hain. I want to sit in bed, I want to watch Netflix. Happens to all of us, correct? So what do we do when we have those low moments in our life, those low energy moments? That is when the intention holds us and says, this is why you are doing what you have said you're going to do. If we don't have that intention, we will fail and we will drop them. All of us have dropped habits that we wanted to start that we thought were going to be good for us, that we thought were going to make a change in us. But what happened? We didn't have a strong enough intention. So I tell my clients that intention setting is the most important, all right? And feel free to take as many notes as you want because this is all for you. So intention starts by asking yourself 3 whys. Okay, 3 whys. Why do I want to do this? And whatever answer you get to that first answer, you ask again why. Why do I want to do this? And you get another answer and you ask why again. And what we're doing with each of these whys is we're peeling away the layers. We're peeling away to the core of what it is that we want, our intention. Okay? Very often, we don't get that. And we get surface level stuff. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients said, Ashdin, I want to run a marathon. I was like, fantastic. Why do you want to run a marathon? First why. I want to run a marathon because my neighbor's running a marathon. Sabash. Why do you want to run with your neighbor? It'll be fun, nah? We'll like get up, we'll wear our cool pink shorts and we'll go. Do you think that's a good enough intention for running a marathon? Do you think she ran that marathon? Most of us start like that. We see a cute yoga top on Instagram, we buy it and now we are a yogi. Doesn't work like that. Let me give you another example. Another client of mine said that I want to start yoga. I was like, fantastic. Why do you want to start yoga? I want to start yoga to become more flexible. Most of us have that same answer. Why do you want to become flexible? So that I can sit on the floor. Okay? Why do you want to sit on the floor? So that I can play with my child. Now look at that intention. Do you think she did yoga? Very strongly, because every time she missed her yoga, in her head, I'm going to miss the opportunity of playing with my child. So you can see how important intention is in anything that you do. Because without that intention, there's no way that you're going to end up doing anything. You're going to be stuck in that same place. Surface level stuff doesn't work. It doesn't bring any change. So intention setting is at the first forefront. Now, how do we change that and translate that into habits? Let's first define what a habit is. A habit is, and this is my definition, a habit is any conscious or unconscious action or thought repeated at a set frequency. Let me break it down. Conscious or unconscious. Many of us think habits are unconscious. Driving to work, I don't know how I landed up there. Tying shoelaces, I don't know. I don't end up making bunny ears. You know, many of us don't know if we wear our socks and then our shoe, or our socks and shoe. Everything's unconscious. But some habits are conscious habits. Can you imagine going to the gym unconsciously? The weights would fall on your head. Correct? So not all habits are unconscious habits. Habits are conscious and unconscious habits. Actions, brushing teeth, tying shoelaces, doing yoga, all of these are actions. But thoughts are also habits. Every morning you wake up and you snooze your alarm, and then the first thought is what? Oh my God, life sucks. Next day you wake up, snooze alarm and say, oh my God, life sucks. What is going to happen to your life? Your life is going to? Correct. We don't realize that this is also part of our habits. Our thoughts are our habits. So we need to realize that there are conscious, unconscious habits, actions and thoughts that are repeated at a set frequency. That means they have to be repeated often. You can't do a crossword once every 2 weeks and say, mere paas crossword ka habit hai. It doesn't work like that. That is, you want to be looking intellectual. So you have to have it at a set frequency. Okay, so this is how we start thinking about habits. There are 3 golden rules to habit change. Okay. The first golden rule of habit change is make it stupidly small. I've chosen my words carefully. Stupidly small. That means that it should be so small that you feel stupid not doing it. Now, I couldn't do this much also. How is that possible? So, for example, your yoga practice doesn't start by doing 30 minutes of yoga. How would we normally do it? Download an app, 30 minutes of yoga? No. That is not how your yoga practice starts. Your yoga practice is simple. You roll out your yoga mat and you sit on it. Stupidly small. Can do, you'll feel stupid not doing it every day. But now that you're on the mat, you'll maybe do a little stretch, you'll maybe do a few Surya Namaskars, you might end up doing the whole half an hour. But otherwise, if you had set that half an hour limit, you'll be like, Ajay, today I don't have time, today I only have 15 minutes, I can't do half an hour. I'm going to bunk it. Happens to us or not? Correct? Because we set our goals so high. Most of us set our habits very large because we want our habits to be worthy. We like, I need to tell my friends and they need to say, Sabash. Can you imagine telling your friends, I just sit on my yoga mat? They'll be a idiot, right? So you need to understand that you need to make your habits so small, okay, that you feel stupid not doing that. Golden rule number 1. Golden rule number 2, make them extremely easy. Ashdin, what's the difference between super small and extremely easy? Extremely easy is about removing excuses. So it's about removing the friction from the process. Imagine you took the same yoga mat, but now you kept it on top of a cupboard that you needed a stool to go and get every single time. Imagine the number of frictions, levels of friction that are there. Instead of just keeping the yoga mat right next to the place where you're going to roll it out. You see what I'm saying? Where do we keep our junk food versus where do we keep our healthy food? Junk food is on the dining table. Healthy food is where in that fridge ka chiller drawer at the bottom which gets jammed and you're never going to open it. Happens or not? So you need to realize so much friction is there in all the things that we want to change. We need to learn how to make them easy to do. Because if they're not easy to do, we're not going to end up doing it. So stupidly small, extremely easy. And finally, we come to one of the most important golden rules of habit change, which is never missing 2 days in a row. This is all about consistency. Many of us say that, ye sab theek hai, but how do I be consistent? You become consistent by never missing 2 days in a row. This is the key. You see, most of the time when you talk about habits, you hear, never miss a day for so many days and you will have formed a habit. But are we robots? We are human beings. Once in a while, we'll fall sick. Once in a while, our children will fall sick. Once in a while, we have to go for a wedding. So all of this happens and our life goes for a toss. But what we have to do is we have to remember this golden rule. Monday, you did the habit. Fantastic. Tuesday, you did the habit. Amazing. Wednesday, now you had to go for a wedding. Child fell sick. You fell sick. Couldn't do the habit. No problem. Don't shout at yourself. Ashdin won't shout at you. Okay? But Thursday, come what may, do the smallest possible part of that habit. You need to, in your mind, be the kind of person that does the habit. Otherwise, what happens is that the habit of missing it becomes the new habit. The habit that you wanted to create falls away, but the habit of excuses becomes better. And which is why we are masters at excuses. Correct? My mother still hasn't learned how to cycle because she didn't have the right clothes. She didn't have the right shoes. I think it's going to rain today. Master of excuses. So we have to realize, how do we get past the excuses? How do we understand? And my entire job in life is to make people understand that all our habits, or the entire life that we have right now, the quality of the life that we have right now is nothing but a representation of the quality of your habits. You need to realize that the life you have right now was created unconsciously by habits you picked up by your parents, from your friends, from people you saw online, on TV. Imagine if we turned that around and you made conscious habits. Imagine what a conscious life you would have. So I want to end with this thought, saying that the life of your dreams, that awesome life that you want, exists only on the habits that you start creating from today onwards. Thank you. Perfect on time. Lovely. I hope you'll have lots of questions. I love question and answers. So whatever questions you'll have, we will do in this next session. Vinifer, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ashdin. I actually can't help but smile at the fact that we are not one but two Parsis on stage today. I don't get that so often. And like I used to joke in the past, and maybe it's coming true because I manifested it, that the tigers will take care of themselves, save the Parsis. Okay. So, on that note, thank you so much for this lovely talk. Very invigorating. And to start with, intention setting, right? We're in that time of the year where we have a little above 30 days left for the year to end. So the usual, I'll eat right, I'll get fitter, I'll read more, I'll spend more time with the family. All of those start manifesting in our head. But like smart Alex, we are like 1st Jan se karenge. Okay. Never know why 28th December or 31st or 30th November is not the right date. So my first question to you is, are you the new year, new start kind of a guy, or do you think like, why not tomorrow is the better way out?
Why not today is what I normally say. So why not now? So for example, when we started the Habit Coach podcast, the whole idea was how can I tell people little habits that they can start from today? Not like, when you are 27, you begin this, or when you are 30, begin this. Start right now. And talking about New Year resolutions, there are no such thing as New Year resolutions. There are only New Year wishes. Okay, it's a New Year dream. Unless you make a plan, unless you put actions to it, it stays like that. And how many of us don't take action? You need to take that smallest action towards whatever version of you want to create. And I used to love resolutions. Okay, I used to give myself resolutions like 100 books in a year and all of those things. And unless I made a plan for them, they never happened. Most of us break our New Year resolutions by day 7 of January. All right. Beyond that, by day 25, it's all gone. So we need to realize that we don't make New Year resolutions, we make New Year habits. And I think that's a better way of thinking about it.
Thank you so much. And you used one word very consistently, focus, right? Now, we're in a world today where we face the problem of plenty, right? Convenience is almost a curse now. Things come to your doorstep at the click of a button. Once you're seated comfortably, there's inertia. Once a routine sets in, there's monotony. And all of those bring in their own comfort, right?
Correct.
So is there a hack on how we can pin down focus on those top 2 or 3 things that you do, however tough or easy they are? Is there a hack around it? Because otherwise, how do you get around setting that priority and focusing on it consistently?
I love it. When it comes to focus, the big realization we all need to have is that we are right now living in the attention economy. Attention is where all the paisa is. If you realize everything that's happening is only grabbing your attention. Everything is an ad. Have you noticed that? Like everything. I remember when the first time we found a brand name on a t-shirt, when I'm talking about when I was growing up as a child, and Puma put its thing, I was like, why would you wear the company's name? It was the strangest idea because you're like, I want the design, I don't want the name. Everything started coming because it needed your attention, needed to grab it. So what is the only main resource you have right now? It is your attention, it is your focus, which we are like battling left, right, and center every single place. There are a few habits that you can use to bring back that focus. The first is to realize that focus is like a muscle. Just the same way you go to the gym and you exercise it, the same way you exercise focus. One of my favorite habits to do is at my desk in front, there's a wall, and I've taken a pen and I put a small dot on that wall. Now, please, you all ask your mother, father, before you all put a dot on your wall. Okay? I put a dot on that wall, and I sit there, and for 5 minutes, I just look at that dot. Any thoughts coming? They go past. That dot focus stays. And you'll realize that over a period of time, that focus becomes easier and easier. The first time around, you'll be like, maybe someone WhatsApped me. Maybe that person messaged me. What was that ting? Why is they making so much noise? Your brain will go all over the place. But you come back to that dot and you realize that focus resides. So this is a beautiful habit to start the muscle of focus to begin with. But, it's like when we are doing a no sugar challenge and you have all the sweets and chocolates around you, it's going to be hard. So what you do is you declutter. So as much decluttering as you do, the more focus there will be there. So one of the best ways of doing it, some of our phones have this thing called focus mode, which basically blocks all the social media apps, YouTube, anything that drags your focus out, use that. I keep my phone in that very often. The second thing I do is I keep my phone in airplane mode for 2 hours a day, minimum. That's the time when I use my focus and I get my focused work in, I get all my writing in, I get all that other aspect where I need my bheja to be used in. Otherwise, the rest of the world is going to try and steal my bheja. You know, notifications on your phone are the single worst thing. You know what notifications are? They are those annoying friends that we had in college. Arey, look at me na. Why are you not talking to me? Why are you talking to the other person? That is what a notification is. It's constantly trying to get your attention. And it's somebody else asking for your time and your focus. Guard it. Remove notifications.
Thank you. Tough, but yes, one has to start somewhere. So I quite like the 2 hours a day, keep your phone on airplane mode, and the dot idea. So I'm going to start
Not notifications.
tonight. No, notifications.
Let's
be honest. I'll get there soon. That'll be my
Next time.
Next step.
Then mine is like my phone is on D&D. Nobody can call me.
oh dear.
So like
That's why you became the habit
correct.
coach.
I have to be extreme, na. Like Ashdin is like that mad person who does these things.
So, fun in games is great, but we also live in a world where everybody is struggling with this somewhat overused but also underused term work-life balance, right? To begin with, I've never understood why it has to be a work or a life. Why can't it be work and life and not having to balance it, because one should not have to outweigh the other. That should be the natural course. But, well, we are in a world where we have tons of screens and so much of information overload. What is it that people, at least employers, can do to ease that for employees who feel like they are burning out, they are stressing out? Because the other day I was hearing a podcast which said that 60 people who are burnt out and stressed don't even know about it until physical manifestations start. So all the mental manifestations we have ignored, right? Until something starts aching or you collapse, like you said. So what is your advice to employers or leaders who lead large teams of people in a business economy that doesn't let you sleep or doesn't let you breathe or think? So what is your advice to that? Because the guys on the other side are scrambling, are trying, but what are your tips or hacks for the leaders?
Beautiful. Love it. Firstly, I don't believe in this thing called work-life balance. Okay? Work-life balance is like a cycle. Have you all ever tried cycling? Not unlike my mother, but have you all tried cycling? You'll notice that your cycle is always on one side or the other side. There is never a balanced state of the cycle. That's when you're not pedaling. If you're pedaling, you're always pushed on one side or the other side. And that is what life and work-life balance is. It's always this side, always that side. You're never in the middle, and that is perfect. You don't need to be in the middle. But what you need to understand is where you're heading. So during the lockdown, I was called on by Google Southeast Asia and Google Europe. So they got in touch with me and said that, Ashdin, we need your help because we've given our employees big budgets to make their home offices. Like each person had got like over 1 lakh to build their home offices. Okay, and productivity is falling. What do? Everyone's saying they're burnt out. We don't know what to do. So I did a few interviews with the employees, etc. And I realized that there was no bucketing of their time, but more importantly, there was no bucketing of their energy. We use this word time management. The actual word we should be using is energy management, because many of us have known this. 4 o'clock in the evening, we are looking at our watch saying, when am I going home? When am I going home? When am I going home? Time is there. What is not there? Energy is not there. Energy is gone. So we need to realize that we need to move away from this time management funda and move to energy management. And we need to realize that, and this was what I worked on with Google back then, we bucketed our energy and time into 5 buckets, which was work, obviously. Then there was home, so home chores. Then there was social. Then there was growth, so something stimulating growth-wise. And then there was do-nothing time. Do we have do-nothing time? We don't budget do-nothing time. And what I told them is that, you'll have this fancy thing called a Google Calendar, And they're like, yeah, we have Google Calendar. Like, what does your Google Calendar look like? Meeting, 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 meeting. I was like, from 1 week from now, when you don't have meetings, start blocking out half an hour of do nothing time. Look at the ceiling. Let your mind wander. Because that is what your physiology was made for. Your physiology was not made for meeting, 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 focus, 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 focus. And as an employer, as a team lead, I would say allow people to have do nothing time. It's not watching Netflix time. You'll notice if you watch a Netflix marathon, you feel tired after that. Don't you? Like, oh, my back is hurting, my head is hurting. But what a super story. No, that's not relaxing. You don't recover from that. You recover from doing nothing. You recover from having that cup of chai and looking out the window. Right? You recover from having that deep, meaningful conversation with a friend. Those are the things that recover you. So identify your recovery modes, recovery habits, and have 2-3 of these recovery habits that you have in place. That's what I would say as getting that balance back. Because work, there's a funny story. I just remembered it. So when I started working, we didn't have laptops. Okay, I'm now sounding very old. But when we started working, we didn't have typewriters, but we had computers. Okay, so when we went home, the only way we could take work home was in paper. Right? We had to print out things and take it home. That's the only way we could take work home. Then, everyone started getting laptops. And you're like, I also wish I could get a laptop, but like boss is not allowing me. Boss was my dad. Boss is not allowing me to get laptop. Finally, he said, okay, Ashdin, we'll take the budget out and get you a laptop. Worst decision of my life. Because now instead of carrying stuff home, now actual work was coming home. And this is way before mobile phones existed. Then suddenly mobile phones existed. Then it wasn't just where you could plug in the computer at home and start working. It was everywhere. And you realize that we did not have an off button. Our phones have an off button. We don't have an off button because it is everywhere with us. And when that aha moment happened, I realized that if I can switch off the phone, I can technically switch off myself also for a bit. There's a beautiful phrase that says that what we own actually owns us. Do you think we own our phones or does the phone own us? Which one is it? Right? Our phone is owning us. Imagine that. This little crappy, plasticky, glassy thing in our pocket is owning this. Worth it? No. Figure out ways of reclaiming that. Do nothing time is another very good habit for this.
Thanks, Ashdin. My last question before we throw it open to the audience is that they say half begun correctly is already halfway to victory, right? And we've heard a lot of this, but let's hear it from you again. What are the first 2 things you do as soon as you wake up? So tell us the first 2 things we should do as soon as we wake up, and also tell us the 2 things we should not do as soon as we wake up. We all know not to look at the phone. So besides that, what are the 2 other things we should not do? Because sometimes just hearing it again and again and again at the right time might just hit the right spot. So
beautiful.
over to you.
I love this. Okay. The phrase I use is that the quality of your morning is the quality of your day. And you'll all know this. Why? Most of us wake up and so I'll mix up the do's and don't do's. So we first wake up and what do? We snooze our alarm. What does an alarm snoozing do? It doesn't let you sleep, it doesn't let you wake up. Correct? We're in this limbo. Na ghar ka, na ghar ka. Like we're in that state of being. Not a nice place to be. So the first rule is never, ever, 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 ever snooze your alarm. The way to get up is put your phone for charging away from your bed. So you have to get out of bed to switch it off. Then you go immediately to the toilet, splash cold water on your face. That's a far better alarm than anything else in the planet. Okay? Once that is done, you find your spot where you sit down with your chai, with your coffee, with your whatever, and you wake up gradually. What I do is I do a gratitude practice. Every single client of mine starts off with a gratitude practice. 3 things that you're grateful for. It can be a person, it can be an object, it can be an event. So I'm grateful for my pen, I'm grateful for, Amit for inviting me, I'm grateful for this event that exists. Whatever, any of these, you can put into place. What this does is this removes fear from your mind. In your heart, gratitude and fear cannot exist together. And what this does is it makes you feel, wow, life is awesome. How many of us wake up by feeling life is shit? Right? We need to move that around. Gratitude is a great way of doing that. What not to do? Do not read the newspaper. Never, ever, ever, ever read the newspaper. I know. Never read the newspaper. Read the newspaper later, na. But you can't wake it up and wake. In your dreams, you're getting your notifications. No, but think about it, right? What is the quality of the mindset you want for the day? You want hope. You want uplifting things. First thing, if you read about death and destruction, not going to give you those feelings. Read the newspaper later, on your way to work, once you're at work, but don't wake up and read the newspaper. We wake up and sit and say, "Chalo, dekhte kaun mar gaya." I mean, just think about it. So you wake up in that fashion. The last aspect of the morning is never rush. Be very, very slow, be purposeful. Even when you reach office, never rush. Before going to your table, you put your bags down, you go get your coffee, talk to two friends, settle down, write down what is it that I want to achieve today, and then start your day. Many of us start our day in an unconscious way. We don't know where our work life has started when it hasn't. Instead, be more conscious about these things, and you'll notice that there's so much beauty in that structure that you will be achieving far more than whatever it is that you're doing currently.
Thank you so much, the Habit Coach. Let's open the floor for
Thank
some
you.
questions.
So, how do you differentiate between, or how important is spirituality in all these things? So, some people may just say exercise is not my thing, but let me be spiritual. Probably that gives me a peace of my mind. So, how do you place spirituality in all these things?
Lovely. So spirituality for me personally is a very important thing. So my mom is a guru for hundreds and thousands of people around the world. So my morning meditation is a spiritual based meditation with your chakra system, etc., etc., etc. What we don't realize is that very often we get trapped in a superficial world, governed by other people's ideas about ourselves. We never actually deep dive into what we think, what is the way in which we can look at the world differently. I think that we have a physical body, which like in yoga is called the Annamaya Kosha. Basically everything that you see in your body was at some point of time food, which we never realized. So Cheetos is somewhere here. But what we don't realize is that we have a spiritual body as well. Spiritual senses in our body. It's called the subtle system. How many senses do we have? Smell, taste, touch, sight, etc. But what about that sense when, there's one creepy uncle looking at you from the back? Where is that sense? Where is the sense of something bad is going to happen, something good is going to happen, sense of balance? There's so many senses that exist that we don't even realize. Many of these fall into our spiritual senses. And there's a whole world out there that we don't even know of, that we're scratching the surface of. So my honest thing is, how do we learn about our spiritual thing without it without it sounding woo-woo? Biggest problem with spirituality is like, woo-woo. Where is the science in this? Not everything is explained by science, but everything can be explained through your experience of it. So I would suggest, for anyone interested in spirituality, approach spirituality like you would Dora the Explorer, like Indiana Jones. Okay? Let's see what's out there. Let's see what works for me. It's so individual. It's so personal. Maybe you might find something that is beautiful and take your life to a completely different level. That's how I would think of spirituality. Thank you for this question. Anybody else? Put your hand up. Okay, so asking questions is a very important habit. Because every time you ask a question, two things happen. One, everybody else says, wow, this person must be intelligent asking questions. But the second thing is that you feed your curiosity. And what is life if we are not curious about things, right? All of us have things that we want to ask. Ask, don't feel shy. That's the point of it all. There you go.
So my question is that sometimes forming a habit is for the luxury life. when people have luxury, where you can wake up and not feel कि अरे boss के 10 call miss हो गए थे, कल ये meeting नहीं किया था, आज करना है, client feedbacks and all. So for the so-called lower food chain people, how do you say that we wake up and we feel gratitude and we feel nice about our life? And how do we make that into a habit?
Every single person is forming a habit because our brains are wired for habits. So we're constantly forming habits. The thing is that are we forming habits we want or not? What you don't realize is that you are also forming a habit with your boss. Do you know that there is an upward delegation also that takes place? Every time you miss your deadline, what is happening to the boss? Huh? Correct. Every time you miss your deadline, the boss is also like fatti hai. All of that happens. So it is not only that they can have it, it's not only that it's a luxury for people who can. Everybody is forming habits. The way you have a conversation is a habit. Everyone who's married here will know this. Every fight that you have with your spouse is a habit. Usne ye bola, fir usne ye bola, fir usne ye bola. Like your children will say, I know exactly what you're going to say next. Happens or not? So our habits are constantly forming. It's up to you to choose, do I want to do this or not? You don't have to live my life of no phones. I know your boss will throw you out. But there are other choices that you can still make, na? So those are the choices that you focus on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a follow-up question, right? I want to understand, right, in this, like, we're in a very hyper-connected world right now. And so we will build the habits, but there's also a general perception, right? People taking out time for themselves. They tend to build a negative perception. Maybe your employer will have a negative perception about them. Even they're working and doing their best, right, in whatever time. So how do we avoid that, or how do we take this culture ahead of taking out time for yourself, especially with older generation employers?
Lovely.
They keep looking behind. I think the
I think there's some
employer is
boss
sitting
there.
there. Only. Yeah.
He's like,
And
these are for
and
you.
boss is from older generation.
So
quote
this was the
unquote.
third part
So
of question.
Please respond
How to
accordingly.
indirectly get things done. I love it. Okay, so the way to do this is that, yes, in some organizations, it is impossible to, like if you put your head down, you'll be like, what is this that you're doing? Especially in Japan. Japan has this culture, of, no time off, etc. But the thing is that all of us have time when we leave the office. Are you camping at your office? You're not carrying a sleeping bag there, no? Okay. So when you go home, what do? Do you vegetate in front of the TV? What? Lovely. So now, the very fact that you call them chores means that they are a problem. See, the language that we use are also habits. The words that we use. If it's a chore, it's a problem, right? But you're actually doing seva to the house. Correct. It's the way in which we look at our work. It's in the way we look at this. And I was habit coach now, but I was also working earlier on. I've also been through these stages. I know it is possible. And I work with so many people in that category. Like, for example, one of the things that, what did you call yourselves?
People lower in the food chain.
Lower in the food chain. What you all don't understand is that the only way you'll get higher is by learning. Right? You're learning for jobs that you want in the future. How much time do you all spend on learning? Very little. Correct? How are you all going to grow? Have you all ever gone to your boss and say, boss, what problem is troubling you? Let me try and solve it for you. Never. Imagine if you did that, your boss will immediately give you a promotion the next time around. Nobody else is asking him. That is also a habit. So the idea is to think differently. Making sense? Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. So my last question is probably about, you talk about acquiring new habits, which is good, but then how do you divest bad habits, which is much more difficult considering that sometimes they're unconscious, sometimes they're built through childhood programming, and so that's a whole different game altogether, but probably equally important. So how does that happen?
Lovely. So the first rule is that there are no such things as good habits or bad habits. Okay? That is us passing judgment on them. There are habits that are moving us to our goal and habits that are moving us away from our goal. Fair enough? So there are no such thing as good or bad habits. The only way to change a habit is to become first conscious that you have this. And the second is not to break a habit, but to replace a habit. I give the example of my grandfather who used to be a chain smoker. Okay? And one fine day he said, I will not smoke from now onwards. No cigarettes came home. But he became addicted to popping pills. So now from cartons of cigarettes, we had cartons of medicines coming home. The addiction remained, the habit remained. What changed was the form of it. He tried breaking a habit and got something he didn't want in return. Instead, what we have to do is we have to consciously put a habit that we want in the place of a habit we don't want. So replace, never break is the way. And that's the golden rules of breaking habits, but next session we will do that.
You have to sign up for his class.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashdin. Thank you so much, everyone, for being
Thank
a lovely
you.
audience.
Thank you, Ashdin.
Thank you.
Indeed, a session that I think a lot of us will remember because we'll be forming habits, one habit at a time, changing our lives one habit at a time. Thank you, Vinifer, for the conversation. I request Vinifer to please present Ashdin with a Sparkle collaborative gift card for Cry.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.